Hey guys, tonight we're plunging headfirst into one of the darkest, itchiest, and most fever-drenched nightmares of human history. The Black Death. Picture it, narrow medieval alleyways choked with smoke, and the stench of rot rats skittering along gutters, and a silence hanging in the air because half the town is already dead. You're walking barefoot on cracked cobblestone, clutching your chest, trying to breathe, because your lungs feel like they're slowly turning into soup. You're about to find out how this plague didn't just kill, it tortured. From fevered hallucinations to bodies bursting open from the inside, this wasn't a quick shuffle off this mortal coil. It was long, painful, humiliating. And yes, you probably wouldn't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, let me know your location and what time it is where you're listening. It's always wild to see who's dozing off in Tokyo at noon or in Toronto at midnight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing that hits you isn't pain, it's confusion. You wake up the back of your throat feeling like it's been scraped with a rusted spoon. Your head throbs, but it's nothing serious, right? A touch of something, a bad night's sleep. But within hours, your joints are aching so sharply, it feels like invisible men are hammering nails into your knees. Your muscles seize. You're drenched in sweat, but your skin is ice cold. People around you are dropping like flies. But it hasn't hit you yet, not fully. You glance down at your armpits because something feels swollen. You see the start of a lump, a smooth, angry boil just beneath the surface. By nightfall, it's the size of a quail egg, hot to the touch, pulsing. You try to hide it. Everyone does. Because once it's seen, it's over. People start avoiding you. Your neighbors won't look you in the eye. The priest doesn't stop by anymore. And even your dog, if you had one, starts barking from across the yard instead of following you like it used to. That boil grows fast. By the next day, it's as big as a clenched fist, turning black and purple and oozing pus that smells worse than death. That's just the beginning. They'll call it a bubo, hence bubonic plague. But what it really is, it's your lymph nodes becoming battlegrounds. The bacteria Yersinia pestis rides in on the back of a flea carried by a rat, and it explodes inside your body like it's setting off tiny biological grenades. Your immune system is overwhelmed. Your white blood cells are desperately trying to fight, but they're losing. And when they die in battle, they leave behind a trail of chemical rot. That's what you're feeling now. Not just infection, internal warfare. People don't want to touch you. You can't blame them. You wouldn't touch you either. The skin around your groin starts to blacken. You smell yourself dying. It's the kind of smell that makes even the most hardened gravediggers gag. You lie in bed as fever takes over. Time slips away. You hallucinate things that never happened, your dead mother calling your name, your old school teacher standing at the foot of your bed, smiling, even though she died last week. Or was it yesterday? You have no idea anymore. The town bell tolls constantly now, announcing each new passing soul. But the sound is so frequent, it starts to blend with your heartbeat. Even death becomes background noise. The lucky ones, if you can call them that, bleed out quickly. A nosebleed, a little vomiting, and then they're gone within a day or two. But for many, it's slower. 4, 5, 6 days of your body roasting and freezing at once. One moment you're shivering uncontrollably, the next you're clawing at your clothes, screaming for cold water, as your brain boils behind your skull. And the worst part, you're aware of it all. You watch your hands swell and blister. You feel the bubo near your neck split open and leak like a burst fruit. There's no one coming to help. The barber surgeons gave up days ago. The monks are dead or fled. The baker's wife is the only one still delivering food, and she leaves it at the edge of your doorstep with her apron covering her nose. Your breath smells foul. Not morning breath foul, rot foul. Your gums bleed. You can barely speak. When you do, it comes out in whispers, your voice raw and hoarse like you've swallowed soot. Your mattress is soaked. Not with sweat, but with pus. From your legs, your armpits, even behind your ears. You can't remember the last time you stood up. You try to sit, but your bones scream. You lie back down and stare at the ceiling, hoping, praying that sleep will just take you and never let you go. But even sleep refuses you. Instead, you're caught in that twilight zone between waking and dying. You drift into memories. You remember the smell of baking bread, the feel of clean linen on a spring morning, the sound of your father humming as he fixed the gate. You try to grab onto those things mentally. You hold them tight, because what else is left? You hear a knock. For a moment, hope flickers. Someone has come to check on you, but it's just the death cart. A slow, creaking wheel rolling down the street. You hear the voice call low and bored, "Bring out your dead." And you know with a shiver they'll be calling your name next. Not yet, but soon. And this is only the first stage. Because the Black Death wasn't just a disease, it was a test. Of flesh, of mind, of soul. And it's only just begun. Your window's shutter creaks in the wind, but you don't have the strength to get up and close it. The breeze, once refreshing, now carries with it a scent that is both sharp and meaty, a stew of smoke, blood, decay, and human waste. Somewhere outside, a family is burning the linens of their eldest son. You know it because you saw them wrap his body just yesterday. He had the same bubo on his neck that you have now. Only his split open days ago. Your own has started to rupture. You didn't feel it at first. Just a strange warmth. But now you can hear it weirdly. A soft, bubbling a hiss beneath your skin, like meat left too long over flame. Your body is no longer yours. It feels like someone else is in it. Something else. Crawling and feeding. The village healer, if she hasn't died, won't come near you. She left a sachet of herbs by your door a few days ago. Sage, wormwood, rosemary. They smell sharp and bitter, but they do nothing to quiet what's inside you. The priests used to say it was a punishment from God, a reckoning for the sins of mankind. But that was before they started dying too. Now even God feels like he's stopped looking. You haven't eaten in days. Bread turns to dust in your mouth. Water, even when you manage to sip it, tastes metallic and foul. Your tongue is white blistered. Your lips crack when you try to speak. The fever makes your body twitch at random. You've bitten your tongue in your sleep more than once and blood pools in the corners of your mouth. You think maybe you're dying, but not yet. Death is still teasing you, dancing in the shadows at the edges of the room, but never stepping forward. It's around this time that the bleeding starts. First from your nose, then your gums, then other places, sensitive places. You wake up with red streaks down your legs, and it isn't because of any wound. It's the body giving up. Your blood is thinner than it should be. The disease has turned your vessels into brittle reeds, snapping and leaking under your skin. You're not the only one. Through the cracked wood of your walls, you hear others moaning in their own homes. A woman down the lane wails through the night until suddenly she stops. A child cries in confusion, calling for a mother who can no longer answer. And always in the distance, the dull, dreadful clang of the death bell. And yet there's something worse than the pain. The isolation. No one comes. No one dares. The friends who once shared ale and stories now walk the long way around your house. Children who used to throw pebbles at your door for fun now stare wide-eyed and run when they see movement through your window. You are a ghost haunting your own life before you've even left it. You dream strange things, fevered things. You dream of a room filled with mirrors, and each reflection shows a version of you more decayed than the last. You dream of a river of black tar, and you're knee-deep in it, dragging your body forward while unseen things pull at your legs. You hear the plague in your sleep. It whispers to you, not in words, but in pressure and heat, in the boil of your stomach and the pulse behind your eyes. And the colors, they start to shift. Not the world, but your vision. The whites of your eyes have turned yellow. Your fingers are darkening. Some areas are bruised so badly, they look blue, almost black. It's gangrene death within life. Flesh giving up before the heart does. In another time, someone might have amputated those limbs. But here in this year of unrelenting sickness and fear, no one's cutting anything. They're just waiting to throw your whole body on the pyre. The rats don't wait. One scratches near your firewood pile, bold, now fearless. It knows your scent. It's not scared of the living anymore. The living are weak, slow, easy to crawl across. Even easier to feed on if it comes to that. Somewhere in the depths of your skull, you realize you've stopped thinking like a person. You think like something infected, diseased, animal. There's no calendar anymore. Days blur. The sun rises, but you don't always see it. You spend more time in the dark, not because it comforts you, but because light is too harsh, too real. The darkness lets you forget, even for a moment, what's happening to your body. But there's a worse variant coming. Not all who suffer look like you. Some bleed from within and never show the outward signs. No buboes, no boils, just internal collapse. These are the ones who cough blood. It comes in sudden waves. The pneumonic form of the plague. It hits the lungs like wildfire. One moment they're fine. The next, they're coughing red foam and gasping for breath like they're drowning on dry land. And it spreads faster. You know this because someone in your home, a brother, a sister maybe, was one of them. They didn't last long. Hours, maybe a day. They gasped until their lungs bled, then slumped over face-blue lips, blackened. You remember looking into their eyes as they died. That distant pleading gaze. You can't forget it. You try. But it's burned into the insides of your eyelids. In towns where the disease hits hardest, no one has time to bury the dead properly. The earth is frozen in winter. The ground won't take them. So they stack the bodies in abandoned churches, in basements, in dry wells. Mass graves are dug hurriedly shallow pits where limbs stick out awkwardly. Sometimes the soil is too loose and the rats dig the dead back out. It's not uncommon to see birds circling the edge of a village, not because there's a field to plow, but because the reek of death is so thick, even the sky wants a taste. And still, somehow, you're alive. For now. You drift in and out of pain like it's a tide. Each time you come to the world has shifted slightly. The ceiling above you has a new crack. The candle burned lower. Your hands more swollen. the air thicker like the room is filled with invisible hands pressing down on your chest. And somewhere deep in your soul, you begin to wonder, is this all there is? Is this the end of the world, not just for you, but for everyone? You wouldn't be the first to think it. And you definitely won't be the last. The third night is the worst. Or maybe it's the fifth. You've lost count. Time is now measured not by sunrises or bells, but by the strange rhythm of your body, spasms, chills, hallucinations, silence. You lie in a pool of yourself, sweat, pus, and now urine. You didn't feel it happen. You just woke up soaked and too numb to be embarrassed. That kind of shame disappeared days ago. When your body starts to break down in public, you stop worrying about dignity. And yet somewhere inside there's still a sliver of you, a thin, gasping thread of awareness. A witness to what the Black Death is doing to you. And that part hurts the most. Because you know you're not just dying. You're being undone, piece by piece. Your skin stretches oddly now. It's tight over your limbs but loose around the belly like a dying animal's hide. Your fingernails are turning gray and one just falls off. You stare at it lying beside you, horrified at how normal it looks, as if it wasn't yours. And then comes the swelling. Not just in your groin or neck anymore, but everywhere. Your face is puffy, bloated. Your eyes feel pushed outward by the pressure in your skull. You try to breathe through your nose, but your sinuses are clogged with blood. There's a mirror somewhere in the house. You haven't dared to look in days. You used to be a person. You used to have plans, arguments, laughter. Now you're a mound of flesh curled up on a straw mattress that reeks of decay. And you know your body has become dangerous. Your breath, your blood, your very presence is a threat to anyone who gets too close. And if they knew what was festering inside you now, they'd run screaming. Because the infection doesn't stay politely in one place. It spreads. The bacteria moves through your blood like soldiers on a rampage, infecting your spleen, liver, lungs, even your heart. Some of it settles in your brain. That's when the madness begins. You hear voices, not like dreams. They're real, or they feel real. A woman whispering your name from the floorboards, the creak of footsteps when no one's home, the sound of your mother humming lullabies except she's been dead for weeks, and the shadows. They start to move. You swear they move. You think maybe the devil is real. Maybe this is hell. Maybe you didn't die when the fever peaked. You just slipped into another kind of death, one where the punishment drips slowly, drop by agonizing drop. And all the while the townspeople are slipping further into despair. They're not burying bodies anymore. They're burning them. At first it was to stop the spread. Now it's panic, fear. If someone so much as sneezes too loudly in the street, they're chased from the village. Some are walled into their homes, boards nailed shut. Entire families inside screaming as they're sealed in. Quarantine, they call it. Protection. But really it's just slow execution. You remember when they did it to your neighbors. The Smith and his wife. Their baby was the first to show symptoms. They lit a fire to keep warm. The smoke crept out the chimney. The villagers thought they were trying to escape. So they blocked the flue and sealed the door with stones. You heard them scream for hours. You still hear it sometimes in your dreams. And now you wonder, will that be you? You think about escape. But where would you go? Every town is the same. Some are worse. They say whole cities in Italy have turned into morgues. that Paris stinks of burning flesh, that in London even the rats are dying. You try to sit up, just once. You grip the edge of the stool beside your bed and push teeth clenched. But your muscles betray you. They spasm and collapse. You fall back winded, head spinning, and your stomach lurches. Vomit rises up your throat. It burns bitter and sour, and it stings your cracked lips as it spills down your chin. The fever has stripped away everything: your strength, your speech, your sense of self. You are no longer living. You are persisting. A twitching, fevered sack of skin that breathes only because it hasn't yet stopped. You think about the church, about forgiveness. But there are no priests left to hear confession. The chapel bell hasn't rung since the old monk keeled over during a funeral. He was the last. He died with his hand still clutching the incense burner. And what good is prayer now when entire monasteries are empty, and even the Pope is hiding behind walls soaked in vinegar to keep the air clean? You close your eyes. Not because you're tired, though you are, but because the ceiling won't stop moving. You feel like you're floating, but not in a good way. You feel like your body is coming apart at the seams. And then there's the laughter. You hear it one night. Clear, bright, joyful. Children. You crawl to the window. It takes everything, every drop of strength. You pull yourself up and peek through the cracked shutter. It's a procession. Not of mourning. Not this time. It's the flagellants. They move down the street in blood-stained robes, their backs stripped open from their own whips. They march barefoot, chanting, singing, believing that pain will cleanse the world of this disease. You wonder, should you join them, would self-punishment drive out the sickness? Could flagellation undo what the rats have done? But you know the truth. This isn't about sin. It's about biology, tiny invisible monsters. And your body is their theater of war. As the procession disappears into the fog, you slip back onto the floor, panting. The fever surges again. Your heart flutters. You feel it skip a beat. Then another. Is this it? Is this the final wave? But no. Your body clings to life like a stubborn weed. You are not dead yet. And the Black Death isn't done with you. Not even close. The third night is the worst. Or maybe it's the fifth. You've lost count. Time is now measured not by sunrises or bells, but by the strange rhythm of your body, spasms, chills, hallucinations, silence. You lie in a pool of yourself, sweat, pus, and now urine. You didn't feel it happen. You just woke up soaked and too numb to be embarrassed. That kind of shame disappeared days ago. When your body starts to break down in public, you stop worrying about dignity. And yet somewhere inside there's still a sliver of you, a thin, gasping thread of awareness, a witness to what the Black Death is doing to you. And that part hurts the most, because you know you're not just dying. You're being undone piece by piece. Your skin stretches oddly now. It's tight over your limbs, but loose around the belly like a dying animal's hide. Your fingernails are turning gray, and one just falls off. You stare at it lying beside you, horrified at how normal it looks, as if it wasn't yours. And then comes the swelling. Not just in your groin or neck anymore, but everywhere. Your face is puffy, bloated. Your eyes feel pushed outward by the pressure in your skull. You try to breathe through your nose, but your sinuses are clogged with blood. There's a mirror somewhere in the house. You haven't dared to look in days. You used to be a person. You used to have plans, arguments, laughter. Now you're a mound of flesh curled up on a straw mattress that reeks of decay. And you know your body has become dangerous. Your breath, your blood, your very presence is a threat to anyone who gets too close. And if they knew what was festering inside you now, they'd run screaming. Because the infection doesn't stay politely in one place. It spreads. The bacteria moves through your blood like soldiers on a rampage, infecting your spleen, liver, lungs, even your heart. Some of it settles in your brain. That's when the madness begins. You hear voices, not like dreams. They're real, or they feel real. A woman whispering your name from the floorboards. The creak of footsteps when no one's home. The sound of your mother humming lullabies except she's been dead for weeks. And the shadows, they start to move. You swear they move. You think maybe the devil is real. Maybe this is hell. Maybe you didn't die when the fever peaked. You just slipped into another kind of death. One where the punishment drips, slowly drop by, agonizing drop. And all the while, the townspeople are slipping further into despair. They're not burying bodies anymore. They're burning them. At first, it was to stop the spread. Now it's panic. Fear. If someone so much as sneezes too loudly in the street, they're chased from the village. Some are walled into their homes. Boards nailed shut. Entire families inside screaming as they're sealed in. Quarantine, they call it. Protection. But really, it's just slow execution. You remember when they did it to your neighbors. The Smith and his wife. Their baby was the first to show symptoms. They lit a fire to keep warm. The smoke crept out the chimney. The villagers thought they were trying to escape, so they blocked the flue and sealed the door with stones. You heard them scream for hours. You still hear it sometimes in your dreams. And now you wonder, will that be you? You think about escape. But where would you go? Every town is the same. Some are worse. They say whole cities in Italy have turned into morgues. That Paris stinks of burning flesh. That in London even the rats are dying. You try to sit up, just once. You grip the edge of the stool beside your bed and push teeth clenched. But your muscles betray you. They spasm and collapse. You fall back winded, head spinning, and your stomach lurches. Vomit rises up your throat. It burns bitter and sour, and it stings your cracked lips as it spills down your chin. The fever has stripped away everything, your strength, your speech, your sense of self. You are no longer living. You are persisting. A twitching, fevered sack of skin that breathes only because it hasn't yet stopped. You think about the church, about forgiveness. But there are no priests left to hear confession. The chapel bell hasn't rung since the old monk keeled over during a funeral. He was the last. He died with his hand still clutching the incense burner. And what good is prayer now when entire monasteries are empty and even the Pope is hiding behind walls soaked in vinegar to keep the air clean? You close your eyes. Not because you're tired, though you are, but because the ceiling won't stop moving. You feel like you're floating, but not in a good way. You feel like your body is coming apart at the seams. And then there's the laughter. You hear it one night, clear, bright, joyful. Children. You crawl to the window. It takes everything, every drop of strength. You pull yourself up and peek through the cracked shutter. It's a procession, not of mourning, not this time. It's the flagellants. They move down the street in blood-stained robes, their backs stripped open from their own whips. They march barefoot, chanting, singing, believing that pain will cleanse the world of this disease. You wonder, should you join them, would self-punishment drive out the sickness? Could flagellation undo what the rats have done? But you know the truth. This isn't about sin, it's about biology. Tiny, invisible monsters. And your body is their theater of war. As the procession disappears into the fog, you slip back onto the floor, panting. The fever surges again. Your heart flutters. You feel it skip a beat, then another. Is this it? Is this the final wave? But no. Your body clings to life like a stubborn weed. You are not dead yet. And the Black Death isn't done with you, not even close. You don't know it yet, but your body has become a textbook case of contagion. A walking, leaking hazard. If anyone were brave or foolish enough to enter your room, they'd be hit instantly by the smell rotting meat, soured sweat, coppery blood, and something else. Something chemical. Not quite decay. Not quite life. Something in between. Your breath alone could infect them. The dampness in your sheets. The pus soaking through your tunic. Even your fingernails, what's left of them, are coated in microscopic death. You're a plague ship now. But there's no ocean, only walls. And you're the cargo. The people who do come near when they must wear beaked masks now. Not because it works, it doesn't, but because they hope it works. Inside the snout are bundles of herbs, crushed rose petals, cloves, and vinegar-soaked sponges. Anything to ward off the bad air. That's what they believe causes this miasma. Invisible poison in the breeze. They shuffle past your window, dressed in long robes and leather gloves, like ghouls from a bad dream. One carries a stick. If you collapse in the street, he'll prod you with it to check if you're alive. He won't use his hands. No one does anymore. You try to speak to one once. Just once. You croak out a please. It takes everything in you. Your throat rips like parchment. But he just turns. Doesn't respond. Doesn't look. You're not a person to him. You're already a corpse that talks. And honestly, he's not wrong. The days bleed into one another, assuming they're days at all. You sleep when you can, which isn't often. Mostly you drift. You hallucinate. You relive strange memories. Your first kiss, the time you stole a meat pie, the way your brother used to whistle off key when nervous. These things feel more real than the world around you. They're not just memories, they're visits from a time before all of this. Your body, meanwhile, is unraveling. You vomit again, and again. The bile is greenish-black now. Your gut is revolting against itself. It cramps so hard your legs curl up involuntarily. Your hands clutch your middle like you're trying to squeeze something evil out. But nothing comes, just more pain. You wonder how long a person can suffer before the soul simply decides to walk out. And then it gets worse, because the rot spreads, not metaphorically, physically. You start to smell it not from your sheets, not from your clothes, but from inside you. Your own flesh is turning. Your toes swell. Blisters form, then pop. The skin sloughs off in strips. You reach down in a moment of lucidity, touch your ankle, and your hand comes away slick and dark. Not red, not blood. Something thicker, like tar. You want to scream, but your throat is useless now. It produces only rasping gasps like a dying bellows. You try to crawl again, to the basin, to the door, to anywhere. But your arms give out, and your legs, they don't even try. So you lie there shaking, breathing shallow, eyes wide, staring up, and the flies come. You don't know how long they've been buzzing around the room, maybe since the first boil ruptured. But now they've gotten bolder. They land on your arms, your face, and they crawl into your mouth when you sleep. One lays eggs in your bedding. You can hear the maggots squirming. This, you realize, is what it means to rot while alive. You think about the others, friends, family. Where are they now? Did they escape? Did they lock their doors and hope to outlast the wave? Are they lying in their own homes like you, whispering the same delirious prayers into the dark? Or are they gone already, tossed into the cart, burned, forgotten? The town is quieter now. No more screaming, no more processions. Even the death bell rings less. Not because there are fewer dead, but because there's no one left to ring it. And then the fire. You hear it first, crackling, a whoosh in the distance. At first you think it's a memory, but no. The smell hits you, wood smoke and hair. Something's burning, not just a home, something bigger. You pull yourself up just enough to see out the window. The plague house. They've set it alight. A whole block sealed off, quarantined, and now erased. Flames lick the rooftops. The sky turns orange. Screams rise briefly, then fall silent. A desperate attempt to stop the spread. A sacrifice. Your street might be next. You're too weak to move, too weak to flee. So you lie back down, staring at the flickering shadows playing across the ceiling. Every now and then, embers drift on the breeze, glowing like little red stars. You wonder if they'll reach your roof, if tonight will be the night your house becomes your pyre. You can't even decide if that would be mercy or cruelty. And then you wake up. The sun's coming through the shutters. Weak, pale, cold. You're still alive, somehow. Your fever's lower. Not gone, but dulled. The pounding in your head has receded to a dull throb. You manage to sip water. It stays down. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, your mind feels clearer. Just a little. You look at your arms, still blotched, still raw. But the pus has dried. The swelling's gone down. It doesn't feel like recovery. It feels like a ceasefire, a truce, temporary. But even so, it's something. You blink at the ceiling, feel your own breath. Shallow but steady, and you realize with quiet horror, this is what surviving looks like. This is what's left. You don't celebrate the fact that you're still alive. You don't even smile. Because what is there to smile about? You've survived something you didn't fully understand, but it hasn't left you whole. It hasn't even left you human, really. It's left you changed like a tree struck by lightning that still stands but is split down the middle, smoking and hollow. Your reflection confirms it. Somehow, by sheer will or dumb luck, you crawl to the chipped basin of cloudy water in the corner. You lean over it, gripping the rim like it's the edge of a cliff. Your face looks back at you, but it's barely recognizable. The skin beneath your eyes is bruised black, as though punched by death itself. Your cheeks are sunken, your lips cracked and dark. One side of your jaw has begun to flake away, dry skin peeling like bark. You open your mouth slowly, and your tongue lolls out pale and swollen. Your teeth are stained. You touch your neck, and although the bubo has shrunk, the skin is warped, scarred loose. The wound has sealed, but the flesh around it pulses faintly, as if something is still alive beneath it. You wonder if it's truly over, or if the infection is simply hiding, waiting. Your joints ache. Your knees bend, but not well. When you try to stretch your arms above your head, you hear a sickening pop in your shoulder. Your body feels older, worn, not aged by years, but aged by trauma. And then there's the smell. It still lingers. You've cleaned yourself, sort of. You've rinsed your body with cold water. You've stripped off the worst of the linen. But the scent won't go. It's in your hair, your pores. Even your breath still carries a sharp rot, despite no longer vomiting or coughing blood. You move like a ghost through the house. Everything feels heavier. The wooden beams groan. The air is still. You no longer hear the bell. You no longer hear anything at all. And when you open your front door tentatively, weakly, you find out why. Your street is empty. Not just quiet. Empty. No footsteps. No children's voices. No dogs barking. Doors hang open. One of them swings slowly in the breeze. You call out just once. A hoarse, pathetic sound. Hello, nothing answers. You step outside for the first time in weeks, if not longer. The light hits your eyes like a blade. You blink rapidly, eyes watering, heart pounding. The world feels alien. The cobblestones are streaked with ash. A pile of bones lies scattered near the town well. Whether they're human or animal, you can't tell, and you don't want to. Flies hum everywhere. You walk the length of your lane slowly, unsteadily, leaning against walls when you have to. You pass homes you once knew, homes filled with laughter, baking bread, children's drawings scratched into the stone with chalk. Now they're silent mausoleums. At the town square, you find the cart. It's tipped over on its side, empty. The smell that clings to it tells you everything you need to know. A smear of something dark runs from the rim to the gutter. The chapel's doors are wide open. Inside, it's a mess of abandoned icons, shattered candlesticks, and a single stiff body crumpled near the altar robes, clinging to his chest like wet paper. You think he was the priest. You sit. You can't go further. Your body is shaking again. Not from sickness, but from seeing. Seeing what the plague didn't just do to you, but to the world around you. It stole people. Not just their lives, but their shapes, their stories. It scrubbed clean their existence with terrifying efficiency. Some survived, you assume. Somewhere. They must have fled, hidden in hills, escaped to other towns. But here in this square, in this street, you are alone. You are a relic, a leftover. You sit beside the tipped cart for hours, head bowed, not in prayer, but in sheer exhaustion. Eventually you gather what little strength you have and drag yourself home. There's no point in locking the door. There's no one left to open it. Back inside, you collapse onto the floor, not the mattress. That's too filthy. You lie on bare wood, curled like a child, eyes half closed. You don't sleep. You just exist. In a strange state of waking death. And then days later, maybe more, you hear something. Footsteps. Not many. Just two pairs. Soft. Hesitant. Your body tenses. Your ears perk. Are they looters, survivors? Is the disease returning, carried on the soles of new shoes? You call out barely. Just a croak. They stop. One of them calls back. A voice. Young. Cautious. Is someone alive in there? You force yourself up. You look through the window. 2 girls. Teenagers, maybe. One holds a cloth over her mouth. The other carries a basket. They don't come in, but they ask if you need food. You nod. They leave it at your door and retreat. You eat bread for the first time in what feels like years. It's stale, cracked, beautiful. Later they return with broth. They say they're from the next village, a few miles over the hill. They heard this one had burned. They came to see. You tell them briefly what happened. They don't ask for details. They say more people are beginning to return, that the worst may have passed, that the towns will rebuild. You listen, but you don't believe it yet. Because the plague wasn't just a moment, it was a war. And even as the fires die down and the streets are swept, the wounds it left aren't just physical, they're underneath, buried in the heart of every survivor, including you. You spend the next days, or perhaps weeks, straddling the line between recovery and ruin. Your body, though stabilizing, remains unfamiliar. Everything about you feels foreign. Muscles that once responded with ease now tremble under their own weight. Your hands, once calloused with honest work, twitch at odd angles. You stare at them for hours, as if trying to remember what they used to be capable of. Sometimes you try to write. You find a nub of charcoal, an old scrap of parchment. You press your thoughts onto the page, but the letters come out crooked, hesitant. Your brain fights the act of memory. Names are hardest. You can remember feelings' faces, but the words for them slippery, lost in fever. The town hasn't stirred much. Each day you push a little further beyond your threshold. Down streets you once knew, past shops where you used to haggle over bread, past the inn where men used to laugh and spill ale on the stone floor. Now silence rules everything. Doors hang open like yawns. Inside you glimpse what the Black Death left behind, overturned chairs, shriveled apples, shoes with feet still inside them. You don't weep. You've passed that stage. Your soul is dry now, like it cried itself empty in the night without your permission. But the world moves on with or without your tears. You meet more survivors eventually. Slowly they trickle back. A woman with half her hair fallen out. A child who won't speak above a whisper. An old man missing several fingers. Each of them bearing marks, not just scars on skin, but cracks behind the eyes. None of you greet each other with joy. You greet each other the way soldiers do after a war neither side won. You nod. You acknowledge. You carry on. The girls who brought you food return now and then. One is named Elise, the other Marin. Their village was luckier touched by death, but not consumed. They tell you of rumors from beyond the hills, of cities where bells have started ringing again, of farmers returning to fields of babies being born. You listen, but your thoughts drift. Because you know what they don't. You felt the Black Death from the inside. You lived with it. You watched it boil, your blood, peel back your sanity, take everything except your final breath. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you know something they don't say aloud, it could come back. Easily. You study the rats now. You never used to notice them skittering through alleys, hiding under barrels. But now you see them everywhere. You watch their movements with an obsessive dread. You wonder if the fleas have returned, if the cycle is ready to begin again. You don't mention this to the others. Why terrify the living? Instead, you help rebuild. You sweep floors, stack firewood, help dig new graves for old bones that were never properly buried. Some days you even make it out to the forest's edge to collect herbs, mushrooms, bark. The movement strengthens your legs. The air clears your mind. And yet nothing ever feels safe again. Sleep is unreliable. You drift off at night only to wake soaked in sweat, heart hammering. You dream of pustules bursting open, of masked doctors pulling you into the fire, of your own limbs detaching in silence. And when you wake, the silence is worse than the dream. You try to return to faith. You light a candle in the chapel. Someone else, probably Elise, has cleaned it out, set up the altar again. The old priest's body is gone now, buried or burned. The space smells of dust and soap. It feels cleaner, but not holier. You kneel, you wait for something, comfort, presence, peace. But the silence inside matches the silence outside. You don't rise with answers, only aching knees. You begin noticing strange things around town. The birds, for instance. There are fewer of them. They don't sing the way they used to. Their calls are quieter, more sporadic, like they've forgotten the melody of spring. The trees too blooming late, if at all. The earth feels hesitant, like it's not sure it can trust humanity again. And there are still bones in the river. You see them when you fetch water. Bits of ribs tangled in roots, skulls rolling gently with the current. The river doesn't mind. It carries everything away. Sometimes you envy it. The others begin rebuilding homes. Not just cleaning, but mending. Patching roofs, replanting gardens. They talk of weddings of new generations. They speak of before and after like they're separate lifetimes. You nod along, but deep down you know there is no after. There is only continuing, one day at a time. Step by broken step, you see the flagellants again one afternoon. New ones, a different group, still bleeding, still chanting. They pass through without stopping. Their robes are whiter now, clean. Their procession smaller. No one joins them. No one watches long. You all look away. Because you've learned pain is not penance. Suffering is not salvation. The plague didn't come for sin. It came because nature has no mercy, only momentum. You go home that night and sit by your hearth. The fire is small but warm. You look down at your hands, shaking slightly, and you realize this is your new world. Not a return to normal, but the birth of something unfamiliar. And somehow, despite everything, you're still here. The days stretch long now, quiet and still. They aren't peaceful exactly, just emptied. As if all the noise and chaos of life have been packed away in boxes, leaving only the hushed echo of what once was. You wake with the sun, though not by choice. Your body simply won't let you sleep in anymore. Every dream feels too close to death. Every moment of unconsciousness too risky. You make tea from boiled bark and dried leaves. It doesn't taste good, but it gives you purpose. The ritual, however small, feels like a defiance. A way to say, I'm still here. I still choose to live. Outside, green shoots begin to break through the frost. Nature doesn't mourn the way you do. It doesn't pause for sorrow. It simply grows. And in that, there's a kind of cruelty. You want the world to hold its breath with you, to freeze in time until you're ready for movement. But it doesn't. The others are starting to talk again. The air has begun to carry human voices, laughter, even thin and brittle, but laughter nonetheless. A group of boys rebuild the fence at the edge of the village, hammering crooked posts into thawed soil. They move awkwardly like foals taking their first steps. They haven't forgotten how to be children, but the joy of it seems to come slower now. One morning you pass the well and find someone singing a lullaby. You pause listening to the soft, rhythmic hum. The tune is familiar. It stirs something in you, some long-buried comfort. And just like that, your eyes sting. You blink against it. Not now. Not here. You keep walking. But that melody stays with you for hours, looping through your thoughts like the echo of a better time. At night, you still light a candle before bed. You've taken to whispering to the flame. Not prayers exactly, but acknowledgments. Names of the dead. Small confessions. Regrets. You don't expect anyone to hear them. You just want them to exist somewhere. And that's what you've realized, really. The plague didn't just destroy people, it erased traces. The little things that proved they were ever here, the scent of their bread, the scuff marks they left on the doorframe, the way they laughed through their nose. All gone. You've started collecting things. Not much. A button, a child's wooden toy, a bit of cloth with careful stitching. You tuck them into a box beneath your bed. A private museum of lost lives. No one else knows about it. You're not sure they'd understand. There's a new woman in town. Her name is Thora. She lost her family in a city to the west. She doesn't talk about it. You can see the weight of it in her eyes and the way she wraps her arms around herself when no one is watching. You speak sometimes. Share food. Share silence. One day she tells you about the death ships. She says when the plague hit the coastal towns, boats drifted into harbors, sails, flapping ropes, snapping in the wind. Entire crews dead, their bodies rotting in the sun. Some had cages full of rats. Others had birds, starved, frantic, slamming into the hull in panic. They burned the ships when they could. But sometimes they were too late. The wind carried the sickness ashore before the flames did their work. Thora says she saw one herself, from a cliff. It drifted in silent and slow, like a messenger with no voice. She hasn't slept properly since. You understand. Because even now the plague lives inside you. Not the disease itself, perhaps, but the afterimage, the shadow, the dream of it. It clings to your spine, to your breath. You can go hours, even a whole day, without thinking about it. But then you catch a whiff of something sharp, rotting wood-damp cloth, and your mind reels back. Back to the bed, back to the boils, back to the pain. No one talks about the survivor's body, but you've learned its secrets. Your legs hurt when it rains. Your joints stiffen when the wind blows too cold. Your skin still itches in places that were once infected, as if remembering what festered there. You can't eat certain foods. Your stomach rebels. You're always tired. Not sleepy, just tired in the bones, in the soul. And then there's the guilt. You try to reason with it. Try to say, you didn't choose to live. You just didn't die. But the guilt doesn't listen. It whispers anyway. Why you? You visit the grave field sometimes. It's outside the village now. The old burial ground couldn't hold everyone. The new one is plain rows of hastily dug mounds marked with sticks or nothing at all. Someone, maybe Marin, planted daisies there. They bloom wildly, defiantly, life erupting from death. You bring stones, smooth ones. You place them gently, one by one, on the graves. You don't know who lies beneath most of them, but it doesn't matter. They were someone. That's enough. Sometimes children come and watch you from the path. They don't ask questions. They just observe. You wonder what they see. A relic, a reminder. Or maybe just a quiet figure doing a strange thing. But you keep going. Because the work of the living is to remember. Not with statues or sermons, but with presence. You carry the memories now. In your skin. In your breath. In your silence. And each day you wake, you remind the world, I am still here. And I remember. The spring air begins to shift, warming just enough that you stop shivering when you step outside. The village has started breathing again, slowly, cautiously, like someone learning to walk after being bedridden. You see it in the way shutters are nailed back in place, in the neat stacks of firewood, in the chickens someone released to peck freely in the alleys, their clucks bright against the stillness. But you still walk like a shadow. You nod to people, accept bread from strangers, share glances heavy with shared history. But connection feels harder now. Like the plague didn't just attack your body, it walled off your soul. Conversations skim the surface. No one dares dive too deep. Everyone is afraid of stirring the muck underneath. Even the children seem older. They run and play, but they do it quietly, glancing over shoulders, as if expecting the wind to whisper death again. You overhear them naming the empty houses ghost homes, they say, daring each other to peek inside. They make games of what you know was horror. It makes sense. Children are always finding ways to survive the unthinkable, but still it stings. One evening you sit by the chapel alone. The light is low, the sky lavender. You trace a pattern into the dirt with your toe, not thinking of anything in particular, until you hear footsteps. It's Elise. She sits beside you wordlessly. She's older than before, not just in age, in bearing. The kind of maturity you earn when you've dug graves with your own hands and watched friends vanish in the night. She hands you something. It's a pouch. Soft. Smelling faintly of lavender and earth. Inside are herbs dried carefully bound with string. A simple blend for sleep, she says. You thank her. Not with words, but with a slow, tired look that says more. After a long silence, she asks, do you think it's over? You don't answer at first. Because the truth is, it might be. Or it might not be. The plague doesn't announce itself. It whispers into the mouths of rats and lingers in forgotten corners. You shrug. It's the best you can offer. She nods. Like she expected that. Then she tells you something you haven't heard in months. She says she's pregnant. The word lands like a stone in a pond, echoing, displacing something in your chest. You blink, not quite comprehending. You want to smile. You think you should smile. But instead, tears spring up behind your eyes. Because if she is pregnant, if there is new life coming, it means the world has decided to keep turning. You tell her congratulations. She smiles faintly, touches her belly like it might dissolve. I'm scared, she says. Of course she is. What kind of child will be born into this, into a place where the walls still hum with memory, where the soil has been poisoned with so much death? You don't lie to her. You say, "Me too," but then you add, "Maybe that's why it matters." She looks at you, and for the first time since this all began, you feel understood. Not pitied, not feared, just seen. Later that night, you sit by your hearth and brew the herbs. The scent wafts up like a warm hand brushing your cheek. You sip slowly. It tastes of leaves and something bittersweet. You fall asleep not long after. And this time, the dream is different. You are walking through the same village, but it's whole again. The houses are painted. The streets clean. There are voices, familiar and new. Someone laughs. Bread bakes. The chapel bell rings not for death, but for celebration. You see yourself in the dream. Not as you are now, but as you were. Healthier, clearer-eyed. And you are teaching children gathered at your feet, listening to you speak about the time before. Their faces are wide with awe and disbelief. The Black Death is a story to them, not a memory. And when you wake, your pillow is damp, but not from fever, from hope. You sit up slowly. The fire has gone out. The light through the window is blue and soft. Outside, someone is hammering a new door frame. A child is singing off-key, and in the distance, a rooster crows. Life is making its return known. But this time, you're not waiting for it to return. You're joining it. You stretch. Your bones creak. Your back protests. But you stand, and you open the door. The air smells of dirt and ash, and something fresh beneath it. And just like that, you take a step forward, not away from the past, but into the future it made room for. Spring folds into early summer with barely a word. The sky begins to hold its warmth longer, and for the first time in what feels like forever, the wind no longer bites when it brushes your skin. The trees blossom not wildly, but stubbornly, branches blooming like old bones, remembering how to stretch. The village breathes differently now. People move with purpose, their shoulders not quite as hunched, their steps a little less tentative. Windows are cleaned, gardens are tilled. Chickens roam freely between half-fallen fences, clucking with that indifferent arrogance only animals seem to carry. Life, as nature insists, has no patience for grief. But you're still adjusting. Your body obeys you now more or less. You can stand without shaking, walk for longer stretches without needing to sit. But the healing is uneven. Some days you feel almost normal. Others, your fingers lock stiff, your chest tightens without warning. Your memory stutters like a lantern in the wind. You forget words, simple ones. You pause mid-sentence and stare into space. Sometimes you forget what day it is, or whether you've eaten. But what's strangest is how visible you've become. People look at you differently. Some nod with a kind of reverence like you're a monument. They walk past on the way to market. Others avoid your gaze altogether, as if meeting your eyes might call the plague back out from wherever it's hiding. You've become a living reminder. They whisper about it when they think you can't hear. She survived it, they say. Or, he was one of the ones who didn't die. As if surviving was something you chose. As if you earned it. You didn't. You just didn't die. You still carry the smell of vinegar soap on your skin, scrubbed into you by habit. Every cough, every fevered flush sends a shiver of panic into your gut. You find yourself scanning people's faces again, searching for buboes that aren't there. You listen for the death bell even though it hasn't rung in weeks. The silence once terrifying has now become a comfort you can't trust. You've taken to wandering the old paths outside the village, the forest trails, the empty pastures where shepherds no longer graze their flocks. There's something about the wide open space that helps you breathe. No doors, no walls, no locked windows, just wind and birds and the distant creak of branches. One afternoon you find a grave, not in the field with the others. This one's hidden beneath a bent tree near the edge of the woods. A simple marker, a bundle of sticks tied with a piece of fabric. You kneel beside it, fingers brushing the fabric. It's embroidered. Small blue flowers, delicate stitches. Someone buried someone here privately, secretly. Maybe a lover, maybe a child. You sit there for a long time, not praying, just witnessing. That's what you've become, you realize. A witness, not just to death, but to what came after, to what was left. When you return to the village, someone calls your name. It startles you. You hadn't heard your name spoken aloud in weeks, maybe months. It sounds strange, foreign almost. You turn blinking in the sun and see Thora. She's holding a basket. She tells you she's making soup, that she found turnips in the ruined cellar and traded for carrots. She invites you to share it with her. You almost say no, out of habit, out of caution. But then, you nod. You follow her home. Her cottage is half-built, but cozy. A new roof patched with mismatched tiles, blankets folded neatly, a cat curled up in the sunlit corner. You sit across from her at the table. She ladles soup into wooden bowls. It tastes like nothing special, but it feels like a feast, because someone made it, and someone shared it. And you are not alone. You don't speak much as you eat, but after a while she asks, "Do you think it will come again?" You know what she means. She doesn't need to say the word. You look at her. You think of the grave in the woods, of the ships in the harbor, of the way the rats still skitter in the shadows. Yes, you say, not because you want to frighten her, but because it's the truth. She nods slowly, quietly, and then she says something you weren't expecting. "Then we'll be ready." You blink, not in disbelief, but in something like wonder, because you realize she's right. Not ready in the way doctors and priests once believed they were. Not with prayers or leeches or masks stuffed with herbs, but ready in spirit, in memory. You've seen it now. You know what to look for, and you know what to hold on to. That night you return home with a jar of soup and something else you can't quite name. Not hope, not yet, but maybe the roots of it. Something beginning to grow again. And this time, you're not afraid to let it. It rains the next morning. A steady soaking rain that turns the earth soft and forgiving. You stand under the eaves of your cottage, arms crossed, watching droplets race down warped roof tiles. The scent is rich, wet bark, moss, ash. The kind of smell that stirs old memories. Not of the plague for once, but of normal days. Days before everything unraveled. You don't mind the rain. In fact, you find it calming. It doesn't threaten you the way it once might have. There's something honest about it. It cleans without asking permission. It seeps into the places people forget to scrub. You don't go out right away. Your joints ache when it's damp. But when the skies lighten, you make your way to the chapel. Not to pray. You've stopped doing that. You come to sit, to listen. The silence there is different from your home's silence. It's thicker, softer, like someone is still there but just barely out of sight. The doors are always open now. Someone, perhaps Thora, has been sweeping the floor. The dust is gone, the altar cloth is clean, and someone's placed a vase of fresh wildflowers near the candles. You sit on a bench in the back and close your eyes. Not to sleep, just to rest your mind. You hear footsteps behind you after a while. Familiar ones. Deliberate. Slow. Elise. She doesn't say anything, just sits beside you, hands folded in her lap. Minutes pass. Then she says, "The mayor's boy died last night." You nod, not because you're surprised. He'd been sick on and off for weeks. It hadn't been the plague, at least not in its full form, but something else. A lung sickness. A leftover. It wasn't the same, she adds. No black swellings, no blood. Just coughing. Then silence. You know the silence she means. There are different kinds. The silence of a peaceful death. The silence of shock. And the silence of resignation. That long, hollow hush that follows a final breath. When everyone already knows there's nothing left to be done. "He was only 10, she whispers. You reach over and without words touch her wrist. That's all. And it's enough. Later you return to your garden. You've been tending it more recently. Carefully. You cleared the weeds weeks ago and planted roots, carrots mostly, and leeks. Your body still complains when you dig, but it feels good to press your hands into soil. To feel something that isn't brittle or infected. Something alive. You watch ants climb over the edge of a shovel. Birds peck at seeds. A beetle turns on its back, struggling until you gently right it. Small things. But they matter now. The world is full of tiny living things that survived. Just like you. You've begun keeping a ledger. Not of goods or debts, but of names. The names of those who died. The names of those who lived. You etch them in charcoal on thin, worn pages. Some are complete. Others are guesses. Descriptions in place of labels. The weaver's youngest. Old man with the brown dog. Girl who always wore yellow. You write them down not to preserve order, but because forgetting feels like betrayal. When the plague swept through, it stole voices, faces. It took people in the night, often without witnesses, without ceremony. Your book is small, but it resists that forgetting. You light a candle each time you add a name. You whisper it, even when you're alone, especially then. One day, while walking the road beyond the hills, you come across a traveler. That in itself is rare. Most stay put now, but this one is tall, wrapped in a faded cloak, carrying a walking stick and a pack. He's thin, tired, but clear-eyed. You stop several feet apart. He doesn't move closer, just nods. You ask if he's sick. He shakes his head. You ask where he's been. South, he says, and east. Everywhere, really. His voice is quiet, measured. He tells you that cities are stirring again, that markets are opening, that in one village people held a wedding after all this. He says he came north because he heard your village still stood. You almost laugh at that. Stood is generous. But he's not wrong. You do stand. The both of you rest under a tree for a while, saying little. Then he moves on. You watch him disappear over the hill, staff tapping the ground in rhythm. You think about following him, about walking to the next village, and the next, about seeing what the world looks like now after all this. But you stay. Not because you're afraid, not anymore. You stay because someone has to plant, to witness, to remember, and to welcome those who come back. You stop by the stream on your way home, the one that used to run slick with ash and soot. Now it's clear again. You kneel and splash your face. The water is cold, pure. When you look up, you see your reflection ripple. It startles you. Not because of how you look, but because you recognize it now. You see yourself again, worn, weathered, but alive. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Summer deepens. The sun climbs higher each day, and the village feels lighter beneath its rays, not healed, but illuminated. Dust drifts lazily through open windows. The scent of drying herbs and baking loaves wafts through the air. Children begin to laugh without looking over their shoulders. And slowly, ever so slowly, color returns to the world. But grief lingers. Not always loudly. Not always in tears. Sometimes it sits beside you in silence as you slice roots or mend torn seams. Sometimes it curls at your feet while you listen to someone talk about nothing at all, and you smile politely even though your heart is thinking of someone who's gone. You've grown used to the company of ghosts. They don't speak. They don't need to. They exist in the pauses between your footsteps, in the flicker of candlelight, in the crack of old floorboards you never fixed because they remind you of someone's gait. You carry them with you, gently, reverently, not like a burden, like a memory sewn into the hem of your coat. You notice how people look at you differently now, not with fear or pity, but with a strange sort of reverence. Survivors have become rare, and rarer still are those who remember everything. People ask you what it was like, but you can't always find the words. How do you describe the color of fever? The sound of your own breath rattling like dry leaves? The way your soul felt like it was floating just outside your body, waiting for your flesh to fail? So instead of answering, you nod. Or you change the subject. Sometimes you simply walk away. Not out of cruelty, but because the past doesn't need to be spoken aloud to be present. It's already etched into the walls. It's already burned into the fields. It lingers like soot in the rafters and fingerprints on forgotten doorknobs. You keep writing names. Your ledger is nearly full now, each one carefully recorded. Some with dates if you remember them. Some with a note died in sleep, burned in cart, held a child as she passed. You don't know why you're compelled to write it down. You just know that if you don't, they'll vanish. And you can't bear the idea of more vanishing. One evening, Maren brings you a bundle of parchment. More names, she says. From the valley. You accept it without a word. You can see she's been crying. You don't ask who. You already know it was someone she loved. That night, you sit by the hearth and copy each name with care. Your hands ache, your eyes blur. But you keep going. The act itself is sacred. You light a candle for each one. You whisper them aloud. Later, Thora joins you with a flask of cider. You drink in silence, watching the firelight dance across the walls. She leans her head against the stone, her eyes half closed. I dreamed of my sister, she says. You say nothing. She was holding a flower. Daisies, I think. She said it didn't hurt anymore. She looked happy. You finally reply, maybe she is. Thora doesn't argue. The next morning, the church bell rings. Not for death, for marriage. A young couple barely older than children have decided to wed. There's no priest, just Elise and a few elders who recite the words from memory. The bride wears blue. The groom wears a tunic far too big for him. Everyone cries. You cry too, because it's proof. Not that things are better, but that things can continue. You give the couple a loaf of bread. Someone else gifts a chicken. It's all so humble and so beautiful it aches. Later you walk the edge of the village alone. The trees sway in the warm breeze. The stream murmurs beside you. A frog jumps across your path. You smile, not because you're happy exactly, but because you remember what it was like not to be able to. You pass a home that once burned. A new family lives there now. They've planted rosemary and lavender in the windowsills. The scent drifts into the road. You pause. You inhale. You remember who lived there before. And then you keep walking. That's what it is now. Remembering and walking. Planting and waking. You are no longer a victim. You are no longer just a survivor. You are something else entirely. You are what comes after. The wind begins to shift again, softer and cooler than it was a few weeks ago. It rustles the trees with a sigh, and you recognize that sound now, not grief, not warning, just transition. The sun still hangs high during the day, but it lingers differently, less intense, casting longer shadows. Late summer is turning. You can feel it in your bones. Your bones, of course, haven't stopped aching. You've learned to live with the soreness, the stiffness. Some days your knees won't bend fully. Some mornings your hands won't close tight around a cup. But you've stopped expecting your body to go back to the way it was. That body is gone. This one is yours now, new in its damage but strong in its persistence. The days have grown full again. Not fast, never fast, but steady. There is planting. There is harvesting. There are meals to share, tools to fix roofs, to patch. And with that rhythm, something else has returned. Laughter. Not every day. Not the old kind. Not the careless, belly-deep laughter of before. But the kind that escapes in short bursts when someone spills soup on their shoes, or when a goat chases a toddler around the square. The kind that rises shyly, unexpectedly, as if surprised to still be possible. You hear it, and your heart tenses, then releases. One afternoon, you walk past the edge of the field where the plague pyres once burned. The ground there is still blackened in places, but to your surprise, wildflowers have grown through the char, yellow and white. Tiny defiant blooms pushing up through ash and soot. You kneel beside them, tracing their stalks with your fingertips. They didn't ask for this place. They didn't choose it. But here they are, rooted in sorrow, reaching for light. Like you. Back in the village, someone is painting again. You spot the marks, first swirls of ochre and blue on the wall. Beside the old granary. Abstract, uncertain, but undeniably human. A need to express something, to mark the fact that life has returned. You don't know who did it. No one claims it. But each day a little more appears. A handprint, a line of green, a face half hidden in color. And just like that, art has crept back into the world. You visit Thora more often now. She doesn't talk much. She doesn't have to. You share tea, sometimes cider, and watch the light move through her window. She's taken in 2 orphaned girls' sisters. Their hair is tangled, their hands always sticky with jam or dirt, but they laugh freely. They play with spoons and stones and string, turning nothing into games. One day, one of them climbs into your lap without asking. She sits there, quiet, watching the fire, holding your hand in both of hers. She doesn't ask what happened to you. She doesn't need to. You hold her hand back. The chapel bell rings again the next morning. Not for death. Not for weddings either. This time for gathering. The villagers meet in the square. Elise has planned it some kind of midsummer feast. A thank you. A remembrance. A celebration. It's not grand. A few tables, a cart of bread, a roasted pig, bowls of stewed roots. But it feels sacred. You help carry wood for the fire. Someone else strings up garlands of dried flowers and straw. The air smells of smoke and meat and something else, joy. Uneven. Shy. But real. As the sun sinks, people eat. And then someone begins to sing. It's not a song you know. It might be new. But it carries like an old one, simple, repetitive, strong. You hum along, and soon others do too. The melody swells, circles, returns. For the first time since the plague, people dance. Not gracefully, not like before, but stomping, laughing arms flung wide. Bodies in motion, scars showing, limps evident. No one cares. And you, after a long pause, join them. You step cautiously at first. Your legs don't trust the rhythm. But then your body remembers something deeper than memory. Movement, expression, the joy of shared space. You laugh, truly laugh. Later, as the fire burns low and people begin to drift home, you sit on a stool near the edge of the circle and watch the embers pulse. Marin sits beside you. She nudges your shoulder. Do you think it'll always feel like this? You don't answer right away. You look at the fire, at the sky above it, at the smoke trailing into the stars. No, you say, but that's why we have to feel it while it's here. She nods. No one says goodnight. They just rise one by one and go. And you stay behind a little longer, listening to the crackle, remembering every step. Because joy, like grief, deserves to be witnessed too. The next morning, the village is still. The fire is out, the square swept clean, but the echoes of the feast linger. You step into the quiet, half expecting to hear music again or laughter. Instead, there's only the sound of birds and the soft coo of doves roosting above the chapel beams. It's a peaceful silence this time, not mourning, not dread. Just rest. You find yourself smiling, not because anything is perfect, not because anything is done, but because something inside you has stopped flinching. The instinct to brace for pain, for collapse. Just. You return to your garden. The carrots are stubborn, still resisting the pull of your aching hands. But they come free one by one as clumps of soil fall away. You line them up in a wooden bowl, short, knobby, misshapen things. But they're yours. You grew them, with a body that once couldn't rise from the floor, with hands that once couldn't hold a spoon. You've begun writing again. Not just names this time. Memories, scenes, moments. You use bits of parchment, some stitched together from old ledgers. Your handwriting is uneven, shaky, but legible. And the words come slowly at first, then like a tide. You write about the night the bell stopped ringing. You write about the man who died mid-sentence. You write about the smell of burning linen and the taste of broth after 20 days without food. But you also write about a girl who painted a blue circle on a broken door. About children laughing at a chicken wearing a bonnet. About the taste of cider after the first frost. You don't know who will read these words. You just know they need to exist. One afternoon, a traveler returns a different one, this time older, with a scar down one side of his neck and eyes like flint. He carries stories with him wrapped in a leather satchel. He says a town 3 days west has built a library. A new one. For the future, they say. For the stories of this generation, what it endured, what it survived. You give him your ledger. He doesn't ask why. He accepts it with the quiet grace of someone who has also lost things he won't name. He promises to bring it there. You feel lighter when he leaves, as if you've unburdened something you didn't know you were carrying. That night, rain falls again. Harder this time. The kind that hammers the roof and drips through cracks you still haven't patched. But instead of dread, it brings calm. You sit by the window, cup in hand, watching the rivulets race across the glass. You think of those you lost. You say their names aloud. Not all of them, just a few, like prayers that no longer need answers, just release. You dream again. But this dream is soft. You're walking a path lit by lanterns. The grass is dry. The air smells of honey and dust. Beside you are those who were lost, not sick, not bloated or coughing or broken, but whole. They don't speak. They don't have to. Their presence is enough. You wake with a tear slipping down your cheek. But it's not pain that brought it. It's gratitude. The days continue. You help a neighbor repair his roof. You sing softly as you work. You hum the song from the midsummer feast. The notes catch on the wind and drift through the square. Others join in. One voice, then two, then more. The village feels stitched together again, not like it was before, but like a quilt made from scraps. Uneven, imperfect, but warm. You walk past the pyre site again. The flowers are thicker now. Bees buzz lazily between blossoms. Someone's built a bench there. No one sits on it yet. But they will. You do, just for a moment. You let the sun touch your face. You close your eyes, and you breathe. Deep, full, present. This, you realize, is what survival becomes. Not escape, not just endurance, but presence, awareness, the choosing of each moment, and the willingness to begin again. Even after everything, especially after everything. The days shorten again. You notice it one evening when the shadows stretch longer across the square, swallowing the stones faster than they did the week before. The sun still shines, but it dips earlier golden light, giving way to that dusky blue that signals the slow approach of autumn. You prepare your home the way you always did before everything changed, stacking wood, patching holes in the thatch, salting meat for the colder weeks ahead. But now every task feels different, not just routine, not just necessity. Each one is a kind of quiet rebellion. You are alive. You are preparing for a future. That was impossible to imagine not long ago. You walk the roads more often now, the paths beyond the fields, beyond the hills. You don't go far. Your body still has limits, but the air out there smells crisper like pine and drying grass, and the silence is kind. Sometimes others walk with you. Marin once, then Thora, and once even the two orphan girls who took turns pointing at trees and daring each other to chase squirrels. You didn't speak much. You didn't need to. Being side by side was enough. And sometimes you walk alone. There's a field not far beyond the old riverbank where the wheat never grew back. No one knows why. The soil isn't poisoned, but nothing roots there anymore. It's become a strange space, bare open, framed by forest and sky. You go there when your thoughts grow too full. You sit, you breathe, you remember. Because memory isn't always heavy. It can be soft, too. A warmth in the chest. A hand on the shoulder that isn't really there. You feel those moments now more than ever, and you don't turn them away. One day you bring a ribbon. You tie it to the branch of a sapling growing near the field's edge, a thin little tree fighting to grow in land that forgot how to bloom. The ribbon flutters in the breeze. It's small, faded, but it's yours. And that's the first time it truly hits you. You made it through. Not as a ghost, not as a husk, as a person. Changed, yes. Scarred in places no one can see. But here, breathing, bearing witness, walking forward. When you return to the village, the fire is already lit. The square is glowing with its orange pulse, and someone has brought out bread. There's always bread now, and always someone willing to share it. Elise sees you from across the square. She nods. You nod back. That night you take out the second ledger you started. Not for names this time. Not for records. This one's for stories. You write about the feast. You write about the first time you heard bird song again. You write about a woman who painted circles on old walls and a child who asked if the plague could hear you breathe. And you write about survival not as triumph, but as devotion. The devotion of waking up, of tending your garden, of remembering the dead without letting them swallow the living. There's still sorrow. You don't deny it. There are still days when the wind sounds like crying and the trees creak like they're in pain. But it doesn't shake you like it used to, because you've grown something new inside you. Stillness, not numbness, not absence, but the quiet that comes after the worst has passed. The space grief leaves behind when it no longer needs to scream. In that space, things grow. Kindness, patience, bread, laughter, forgiveness, sometimes even joy. You close the ledger. You add it to the shelf beside the first. And then, for the first time in many, many weeks, you sleep without dreaming of sickness. Just stars. The morning fog returns with the turn of the season. It rolls over the hills like a thick wool blanket, quieting everything it touches. The trees vanish into it. The rooftops blur. Your breath becomes a ghost in the air. You walk through it slowly, your boots soft against the wet soil, the village silent beneath this gentle hush. You don't mind the fog. You've walked through worse. It's not the blindness that frightens you anymore, it's the absence. But here now, even the fog feels alive. It doesn't swallow you. It wraps around you, cool and steady like an old friend saying hello. At the edge of the village, someone's rebuilt the signpost. The one that burned in the early days when fires were lit for bodies instead of warmth. You pause beside it, fingers brushing the carved letters. The wood is fresh. The village name is still the same. But you are not. No one is. People are starting to travel again. Traders, healers, wandering priests. They come with tales of other towns recovering, cities rebuilding. They tell stories of people dancing in Florence, of wheat returning in Avignon, of bells ringing again in London. The world, they say, is waking up. And you believe them. Because here, too, things are stirring. There's talk of reopening the school, of repairing the old watermill. Someone even whispered about a fair next spring. You don't scoff. You don't hope too loudly. You just keep walking. You pass a child with a wooden sword chasing imaginary enemies through the grass. You pass a young couple tending vines growing along their window. You pass Thora hanging laundry with clothespins carved by hand. You nod to them all. You step into your home and it feels lighter than it used to. Not empty, not haunted, just lived in. The floor still creaks, the hearth still smokes a little on windy nights, but it's yours. And every object inside has made it through the same storm you did. You sit, you breathe, you remember. But you don't linger there, not anymore. You write in your new book again that night. Your third now. Not names, not even memories. This one is for instruction, for the ones who will come later. You write down what to do when the cough begins, how to recognize the swelling, how to wrap the herbs and hang vinegar cloth in the window. But more importantly, you write this: do not leave the sick alone. Do not burn the books. Do not forget the names. You underline that last part. You set down the pen, and then as the fire dies low, you open the shutters and let the night air in. It's cold, yes, but it smells of dry grass and sweet wood smoke. Outside, someone sings. It's a lullaby, one you haven't heard in years, and you, without even realizing it, hum along. There will be other sicknesses, other trials. The world does not promise safety, but you've learned something deeper than survival. Resilience. And that's what you carry now. Not in your arms, not on your shoulders, but in your soul. The plague tried to unmake you, but here you are, standing in your doorway, listening to music, smiling, alive. You lie down now, your body sinking into warmth. The room around you is quiet, dim, safe. The flicker of the candle on the table casts long, slow shadows across the ceiling. The fire crackles softly in the hearth, gentle, steady, no longer raging, just enough to keep the cold at the edges of the room where it belongs. Outside, the world continues in silence. The wind brushes through the trees. A dog barks far off, barely audible. Someone has closed their shutters for the night. Another day has passed, and still the world turns. You breathe deeper now, slower, letting your muscles soften with each exhale. The tension in your shoulders melts. Your fingers unclench. Your chest rises and falls in a rhythm that's no longer rushed, no longer bracing, just resting. In the distance, the bells no longer toll for the dead. They toll for weddings, for festivals, for the planting season. And inside you, there's something like peace. Not loud, not proud, just quiet, earned, rooted. You remember the faces, the names, the ones who didn't make it, and the ones who came back. But you don't need to hold them now. You've honored them, and now they can rest too. You pull the blanket closer. The pillow welcomes your cheek. The room, the world, your breath, they're all soft now. And you are safe. You are still. You are home.